More of a team player, I repeated, keeping my voice steady even though anger was bubbling just beneath the surface. My boss, Marcus, leaned back in his leather chair, that insufferable smile still plastered across his face. Look, Emma, you're great at what you do. Nobody's denying that. But Jessica, she knows how to work with people. She brings energy to the office. You're just too focused on results. Too focused on results. The words echoed in my head as I sat there, gripping the armrests of my chair. 5 years. I had given this company 5 years. Early mornings, late nights, sacrificed weekends. I had single-handedly landed our biggest clients, streamlined our operations, and increased our department's efficiency by 40%. And now I was being passed over for a promotion because I was too focused on results. My name is Emma Chen, and at 32, I learned the hard way that corporate success isn't always about merit. Sometimes, it's about playing the game, about knowing whose ego to stroke and whose coffee to fetch. Jessica was certainly good at that. She'd been with the company for barely 2 years, but she had already mastered the art of taking credit for other people's work while doing virtually none of her own. I watched as Marcus shuffled papers on his desk, probably expecting me to break down, or argue. But I didn't. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out a crisp white envelope. I understand, I said, placing it gently on his desk. And I appreciate you letting me know. Here's my resignation letter. My last day will be in 2 weeks. Marcus's smug smile faltered. This clearly wasn't the reaction he had expected. Now, Emma, let's not be hasty. Just because you didn't get the promotion. It's not hasty, I cut in, calm but firm. I've given this a lot of thought. And you're right, I am focused on results. That's exactly why I've decided to pursue opportunities where that quality is actually valued. What Marcus didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I hadn't just been working on company projects for the past 5 years. In my spare time, I had been building something of my own. Something that would make Marcus's promotion decision look like the joke it was. As I walked out of his office, I could feel my coworkers' eyes on me. News traveled fast in our department. Jessica was probably already planning how to redecorate my cubicle. I kept my head high as I returned to my desk, thinking about the other document tucked inside that resignation envelope, the one that would make Marcus realize exactly what he was losing. The next 2 weeks went exactly as you'd expect. Jessica pranced around the office like she already owned it, putting on a show of learning the ropes of her new position. She stopped by my desk one morning, perching on the edge with fake sympathy dripping from her voice. Emma, I hope there are no hard feelings. I know you worked really hard for this promotion. I looked up from my computer, where I was methodically downloading copies of my work files, not to steal them. I had too much integrity for that. But I wanted documentation of everything I had contributed to the company. No hard feelings at all, Jessica, I said evenly. I'm sure you'll do great. She smiled, probably thinking I had admitted defeat. She had no idea. For the past 3 years, I had been secretly developing a revolutionary project management system. It started as a way to organize my own workload. But over time, it evolved into something far more powerful. I tested it, refined it, used it to achieve those troublesome results Marcus seemed so uncomfortable with. And with my resignation letter, I had included a detailed report outlining exactly how much time and money my system had saved the company. The real kicker, I had filed for a patent 6 months earlier. It had been officially approved the week before. But even that wasn't the best part. 1 week into my notice period, I received an email from Robert Chen, no relation, the CEO of our biggest competitor. He had heard through the grapevine that I was leaving and wanted to meet for coffee. I smiled when I saw his name in my inbox. Everything was falling into place. The meeting with Robert was everything I had hoped for. He had been quietly following my work for months, impressed by how I had transformed client relationships and streamlined internal processes. He didn't just offer me a job. He offered me a partnership role, complete with creative control over implementing my system across their entire organization. We've been looking for someone like you, Emma, he said, sliding the contract across the table. Someone who understands that results matter. The salary is triple what you're making now, plus equity. My hands were steady, even though my heart was racing. This was what recognition felt like. This was what it felt like to be valued. On my final day, when I handed in my security badge, Marcus called me into his office one last time. The smug smile was gone. In its place was something that looked suspiciously like panic. "Emma, we need to talk about this report you included with your resignation," he said, holding the papers with slightly shaking hands. "Why didn't you tell us about this system before?" "I tried, Marcus," I replied calmly. 3 times in the past year, I requested meetings to discuss implementing new efficiency measures. You said we needed to focus on team dynamics instead." He flipped through the pages, his face growing pale. "But this is revolutionary. The potential savings alone, and you've already patented it." "Yes," I said simply. "And I've accepted a position with Chen Industries. They're very excited about implementing it company-wide." Marcus slumped back in his chair. "Chen Industries, our biggest competitor. Emma, you can't." "What about loyalty?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Loyalty. Like the loyalty you showed me when you promoted Jessica. Like the loyalty you showed when you dismissed every suggestion I made because I wasn't enough of a team player." I stood and straightened my jacket. "If you had looked past your biases, if you had actually paid attention to the results instead of who brought you coffee or laughed at your jokes, none of this would be happening. But you didn't. And now Chen Industries has an advantage you can't match." "We'll match any offer," he said quickly. "We'll promote you to senior director. Just don't go to Chen." I shook my head. "It's not about the money or the title. It's about respect. It's about recognizing value. And you've made it very clear where you stand." As I walked out for the last time, I heard him frantically dialing his phone, probably calling the executive team for damage control. Too late. The patent was mine. The contract was signed. And Jessica, she was about to discover that taking credit only gets you so far. Eventually, you have to deliver. My first day at Chen Industries felt like stepping into a different world. Instead of a cramped cubicle, I had a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. My name was etched on a sleek glass plate. Emma Chen, Director of Operations and Strategic Innovation. But the real difference wasn't the office. It was the respect. Robert called an all-hands meeting to introduce me. He didn't just announce my position. He outlined my achievements, explained the value of my system, and made it clear that I had full authority to implement changes. "Emma isn't just joining our team," he told the room. "She's bringing a revolutionary approach that will transform how we operate." The contrast to my old company was almost surreal. There, I had been the quiet workhorse. The one who got things done but was never acknowledged. Here, I was celebrated for the very thing Marcus had criticized, my focus on results. 3 months later, during a team meeting, my phone buzzed with a text from David, a former colleague. "You might want to check the industry news," it read. "Something big just dropped about Meridian Corp." I excused myself and pulled up the article. Meridian Corp stock plunges 30% following disastrous quarter. The report detailed how they had lost 3 major clients. Project delays had skyrocketed. Costs had spiraled out of control. Efficiency metrics were at all-time lows. One quote stood out, from Thomas Reynolds, one of our biggest former clients. "The quality of service at Meridian has deteriorated significantly. Projects that used to run smoothly are now constantly delayed. It's like they lost their entire organizational structure." I couldn't help but smile. Those smoothly run projects, they had all been managed through my system. The organizational structure they lost. That was the framework I built over 5 years, the one Marcus never bothered to understand. Another message from David came through. "Jessica's having a meltdown. She can't handle the workload. Marcus is finally realizing she has no idea what she's doing." There was irony in that. Jessica, who had spent 2 years taking credit, was finally being forced to produce results on her own. And Marcus, who chose style over substance, was watching his department crumble. But I had bigger things to focus on. At Chen Industries, my system was delivering remarkable results. Project completion times were cut in half. Client satisfaction hit record highs. Efficiency metrics soared. 6 months after I left Meridian, Robert walked into my office holding a newspaper. "Have you seen this?" he asked. The headline announced that Meridian's CEO had stepped down amid the ongoing crisis. The company was restructuring. "They tried to recreate your system," Robert said. "But without the underlying architecture, it didn't work." "Because it's not just software," I replied. "It's understanding how everything fits together." He smiled. "Which is why we're announcing your promotion to Executive Vice President next week." The board voted unanimously. That warmth in my chest, that was recognition. Later that day, I received an unexpected email from Marcus. He admitted he had made a massive mistake. The board had asked for his resignation. Jessica had resigned weeks earlier. He wrote, "You were right. Results do matter." I read it twice. There was a time when that acknowledgement would have meant everything. Now, it felt like a footnote. I replied simply, "Thank you for your email. You're right, results do matter. I wish you success." I hit send and glanced at the framed patent certificate on my wall. Below it hung a plaque commemorating our record-breaking quarter. Beside that, a feature naming me one of the industry's rising stars. That criticism, too focused on results, had become the greatest compliment I'd ever received. The next morning, I gathered my team. As I looked around the room, at people who respected me, valued my input, and were excited to collaborate, I felt something steady and deep. "Today," I began, "we're going to talk about our next big project. But first, I want to share a story about recognizing value, not just in systems, but in people. Because success isn't about playing the game. It's about creating real value. It's about standing by your convictions, even when others doubt you. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't getting even. It's moving forward, building something better." Months later, as I drove past the old Meridian building and saw a "For Lease" sign in one of the windows, I didn't feel triumph. I felt gratitude. Gratitude that they underestimated me. Gratitude that they pushed me out. Gratitude that they forced me to prove my worth, not just to them, but to myself. Sometimes the biggest opportunities come disguised as rejection. Sometimes being too focused on results is exactly what you need to be. My phone buzzed again. A message from David. "The board wants to know if you'd consider coming back as CEO." I smiled. "Thanks," I typed back, "but I'm exactly where I need to be." Because success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about knowing your worth, and refusing to settle for less. And as I sat down in my home office that evening, reviewing proposals to expand our system globally, I couldn't help but smile. In the end, Marcus had been right about one thing. I was too focused on results. And that focus took me exactly where I was meant to be,